Greetings, Sun Devil Nation, and welcome to this week's edition of the Anderson-Healey Show. This is the weekly program from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network that brings you all the latest news in Arizona State University Sun Devil athletics. Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play voice of Sun Devil football, men's basketball, and baseball, and it's my pleasure to be your host every week. And working with me again this week, back with us after an absence of a few weeks, is Arizona State Vice President for University Athletics, Ray Anderson. Great to have you back, Ray.
Well, great to be back, Tim. A lot of travel with the transition from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. A lot of meetings with athletic directors, presidents, and chancellors that draw you out early in the week. So it's nice to have a normal week back on campus, and good to be back with you.
How is the interaction going with your soon-to-be Big 12 colleagues?
Well, I think it's going very positively. You know, they had the original 8, and now you have 4 schools that joined them this year, and then our 4 Pac-12 schools will join them next year. So they went from 8 to 12 to 16, and so it's a crowded room now.
I'll bet.
And then when you add all the conference folks, and then last week the presidents and chancellors joined the second set of meetings, it was quite an accumulation of folks from around the country. The number one thing is there's a lot of excitement about where we're going, and I think a lot of enthusiasm about the collaboration and innovation that this Commissioner Brett Yormark has in store. So it's been pretty enlightening and very frankly quite engaging.
But it sounds like, from what you told me earlier before we started taping, some good people there too.
Very good people across the board. There's some really long-time athletic directors like Jamie Pollard and Gene Taylor, and then there's some newer ones in the group, including guys like John Cunningham at Cincinnati, and Ren Baker is fairly new to West Virginia. So a very good group across the board, and I think all very committed to a partnership in the Big 12 going forward, because they make it very clear they want to go and challenge the SEC in the Big 10 for dominance. Wow. And so it's fun to have people speaking very confidently, yet not cockily, not a lot of cockiness about where they want to go on. They know there's a lot of work, but the aspirations are real.
Well, it's an exciting thing, and we're all looking forward to the move to the Big 12 1 year from now. As we generally do, we have a couple of guests joining us on our show this week. Sun Devil junior defender Lauren Kirberg will stop by a little bit later on to talk about ASU's women's soccer team and their terrific start to this season, including their first weekend sweep of the Washington schools in 5 years. They polished off that sweep this past weekend. Also with us on the show, former Arizona State football great Juan Roque will drop by to catch up, and he will tell us about his personal mission to help bring the sport of American football to the youth of Mexico. So Juan and Lauren will join us a little bit later on. But first, as we always do in the fall, we begin with football, and unfortunately another case of close but no cigar for the Arizona State football team last week, as the Sun Devils lost a tough one at home to Colorado, 27-24, the final score. It was ASU's 5th straight loss, 3rd in a row in Pac-12 conference play, but all 3 of those conference games, Ray, have been very competitive, and the last 2 decided by the mere margin of a field goal.
Yeah, it's certainly a rebuilding year and a learning curve in terms of learning how to win. And I think Kenny Dillingham is understanding that you got to continually get better impart that. So this team is getting closer. The thing that I really like is that they stay competitive, and no one's backing down. No one's feeling sorry for ourselves. So they're getting better and better. And you know, these last 2 games, yeah, they were winnable games. You learn to finish. You learn not to make the small mistakes. And I think we're getting better at really recognizing that. So. Yes, some of the game endings have been disappointing, but the growth, if you look at the nuances of it, I think has been impressive enough to keep us excited.
Indeed. In the last 2 games, in each of the last 2 games, the Sun Devils have outgained their opponents, California and Colorado, by approximately 100 yards in each game. But as Ray touched upon, it's been the inability to either make or stop the big plays in the big moments, not handling those details that enable you to do so, that have been so costly.
Yes, you got to learn how to finish. You have to really learn how to win. And part of that is Juan Roque and others who've played the game at a high level will tell you. That's just being determined about finishing the job. staying disciplined to what your role is, and then finishing. And you can't take anything for granted. You got to learn. You got to learn that, and I think this team is learning that. But I remain very optimistic because, again, I go out to practice when I can. I'm around the facility when I can. And there aren't people hanging their heads. Woe is me, pouting about. They're getting about the business of the next game and getting better. So I'm encouraged by that.
Every practice I've been to has been a spirited practice for sure, and I would echo Ray's sentiments exactly. And how about this? Back-to-back sellout crowds at Mountain America Stadium for USC. And last week, I thought it was a great atmosphere in the building for Colorado. Granted, I'm sure a lot of them there to see Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and his team. That's quite an event, isn't it, now when Coach Prime and his club roll into town?
Well, I think Fox and ABC and ESPN, everybody who wants to put their game day at Colorado in multiple weeks has proven that it's a pretty good show. It's a pretty good entertainment, and people want to see it. Let's just be honest about it. And so when you have an opportunity to bring in Prime and bring in Colorado as a home team and they're in as visitors, take advantage of it and appreciate it and respect it for what it is, and they want to see a show. And so the sellout was magnificent, and we all benefit when that happens, to be sure. And I'll share one very fact that underscores what we said in advance about why it is a good thing to have Deion and his show on the road. We had the highest ever in-stadium concession sales in Sun Devil Athletics history last Saturday.
How about that?
And it was $500,000 more than our prior high.
That's amazing.
Ever.
That's amazing.
And so it is amazing.
Yeah.
And so the impact to the community and very frankly to the economic impact is good when you have that. And it's important in this day and age to drive your revenues. So a lot of folks maybe don't like that show, but it is an effective show. And in this day and age, you need those types of opportunities.
Yeah.
To be sure.
No question. Last week's game against Colorado was also the featured point of Hall of Fame weekend at Arizona State, as Arizona State Sun Devil Athletics inducted a terrific class of 6 former athletes and coaches into the Halls of Fame and Distinction. And also going in was one team, the 2007 Sun Devil women's track and field team that did the amazing. They won both the NCAA indoor and outdoor national championships in the same year. The other inductees that went in, All-American track and field thrower Jordan Clark, baseball All-American and longtime Cleveland Indians second baseman Jason Kipnis, Sean McDonald, one of the great pass catchers in Arizona State football history, water polo's all-time leading scorer Addison McGrath Brown, and volleyball star Regina Stahl-Mannix. And also going in was the head coach of that 2007 Sun Devil track and field team, Greg Kraft, who truly is a Hall of Famer. He enters the Hall of Distinction. That's a terrific class, isn't it?
I'm telling you, it is a magnificent class. And for those of us who were fortunate to be at the banquet, some of the stories that were shared with our Hall of Famers, some of which were very personal, were unbelievably moving.
Yeah.
And I challenge anybody who was actually there to tell me they didn't have tears in their eyes on at least 2 or 3 of those presentations by these Hall of Famers.
Yeah, Regina Stahl-Mannix gave a very, very moving acceptance speech.
There's no question about it. It was just fabulous. It really was. And then to really have it underscored how unbelievable that women's team was, who won back-to-back championships, including both indoor and outdoor in 2007. And then they did it again, I believe they said in 2008. And they were upset when they came in second in the outdoor, I think it was that year, and almost didn't want to accept the trophy because their standards of excellence was, we want championships or we don't want the hardware. It was a great group of inductees, all of whom were very well deserved. And it was probably the most moving banquet or celebration of that type that I have personally experienced in my life.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, some moving moments, a lot of laughs as well. and a great class of inductees entering the Sun Devil Athletics Hall of Fame, and Greg Kraft entering the Hall of Distinction. On to Sun Devil Volleyball, which continues its amazing early season run. The Devils swept their home matches this past weekend with the UCLA Bruins and the USC Trojans. It was ASU's first weekend sweep of the Pac-12's Los Angeles schools since 2010. And it was only the third such sweep in Sun Devil volleyball history. Coach J.J. Van Niel's Sun Devils began the weekend winning a 5-set thriller against his former team, the USC Trojans, Thursday night. Oh, by the way, that also snapped USC's 9-match winning streak. And then on Sunday, the Sun Devil volleyball team moved over to Mullet Arena, and they swept away the UCLA Bruins in 3 sets. It was ASU's 11th straight sets win of the year. So the Sun Devils, Ray, the numbers now 17-1 on the season, 5-1 in Pac-12 play, and they move up this week to number 19 in the national volleyball rankings.
Well, what Coach J.J. Van Niel has done in a short order is nothing short of remarkable. And to sweep the LA teams here is just sweet. Mm-hmm. It's a sweep that was so sweet.
There you go.
There's just no two ways around it.
Get those consonants articulated.
Get them right, because they haven't come often.
Yeah.
And so he's doing a great job. And my understanding is the all-time number of wins here is 20 in a season. We're at 17 already with much to go.
Wow.
So we're on our way to perhaps the best season in ASU volleyball history. Think about that in his first year. Just a magnificent achievement.
Now they take this show on the road, do the Sun Devil volleyball players. They will head up to the beautiful state of Oregon for 2 big matches this weekend. They'll be in Corvallis Friday night to take on the Oregon State Beavers in a match that begins at 7 p.m. And then, boy, check this one out. Sunday, high noon in Eugene, number 19 Arizona State and the 5th-ranked Oregon Ducks. That will be a doozy. And big weekend coming up for volleyball, which is off to a blistering start. The puck drops on college hockey's regular season this coming Friday night at Mullet Arena. Coach Greg Powers' Sun Devils will host 15th-ranked Merrimack College in Friday's season opener, with another game coming up on Saturday at 5 p.m. The season opener Friday evening. The puck will drop at 7 p.m. at the Mullet. The Sun Devils should be full of confidence, to say the least, entering this regular season opener, coming off of a 16-0 annihilation of the University of Arizona Wildcats club team in an exhibition game last Friday at the Mullet. 14 different Sun Devils lit the lamp in that game against the U of A, with Tyler Gratton and freshman Kyle Smullen each scoring 2 goals in the rout of Arizona.
Tim, annihilation it was. And I must admit that I was there at the game, and I left after the second period because I didn't want anybody to get.
You were fairly confident about the outcome.
I was confident
stage,
about the outcome. We had a game the next day, and I didn't want anybody to detect on my face any sympathy or empathy for the Wild Kitties, because they were getting beat down, and I needed to get out of there because I didn't want anyone to think that I actually had any soft spot in my heart for as bad as we were beating the Wildcats. And Greg Powers is very honest to say, if they come in here with the block A on their chest, I don't care where they're coming from.
They're fair game.
They're fair game. Mm-hmm. And I'm not pulling anybody off of scoring. So we had 14 different guys score in that game. And so they were a club team, but they wanted to come up here and play, and we were glad to host them. But yeah, we annihilated them, and hopefully Merrimack coming forward will be a little more competition for us. But this team is ready to. This team is ready to play, man.
I think they are. And dating back to their pre-Division I days, you know, the Sun Devils used to be a club program before they entered the NCAA Division I status. Arizona State hockey has now beaten Arizona. Get this: 49 of the last 50 meetings, going back to their days when both were club programs. And by the way, time for a little bit of a promotion here, as we mentioned that the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network will have radio coverage of the first 2 games of the season this weekend when the Sun Devils take on Merrimack College at the Mullet. You can join the voice of Sun Devil hockey, Tyler Paley, and his outstanding color analyst, Alex Coyle, as they bring you all the action on Fox Sports 910 AM and also on the iHeartRadio app. Pre-game coverage will begin at 6:30 Friday evening, 4:30 on Saturday afternoon, ASU and Merrimack College. It was a great weekend for Sun Devil soccer, which posted a home sweep of the Washington schools for the first time since 2018. Coming up, we'll get the lowdown on the Sun Devil soccer team from ASU veteran defender Lauren Kirberg. But first, let's take a timeout. This is the Anderson Healey Show from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. We're back on the Anderson Healey Show from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network with Arizona State Athletic Director Ray Anderson. I'm Tim Healey, the radio voice of the Sun Devils, and Ray and I are happy that you joined us this week. You know, we've talked a lot this year, and we talked a lot in the first segment of this week's show about the exploits of the Sun Devils' red-hot volleyball team, off to a 17-1 start. They have a number 19 national ranking as of this week, and that's been all well and good. They're off to a terrific start, but let's not overlook the Sun Devil women's soccer team, which has just lost 2 of the 14 games it has played so far this fall and is coming off its first weekend sweep of the Pac-12's Washington schools since 2018. The Sun Devils edged Washington 2-1 last Thursday night when Anasia Colon scored a goal in the 85th minute to win that ball game. And then on Sunday, Coach Graham Winkworth's team exploded for 4 second-half goals to take down the Washington State Cougars by the score of 5-1. Joining us this week to talk about her team and its terrific play and the sweep of the Huskies and the Cougars is one of the veterans on this Sun Devil soccer team, a third-year junior from Sandra Day O'Connor High School in Peoria, Arizona. We're happy to have junior defender Lauren Kirberg join us here on the Anderson Healey Show. How are you, Lauren? Good to see you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Ever done a TV interview like this?
No, this is my first one.
Well, we're delighted to have you with us. You and your teammates must be having a lot of fun this fall. Talk about the way the season has gone so far.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the way season has been going. You know, I think coming into the season, I was kind of curious on how it was going to go because, you know, a lot of people transferred, graduated, whatever the case is, and then we just had a lot of freshmen. We had transfers coming in. So I was kind of curious to see how like the team dynamic would go. And I think at first, by no means did we not play well. We did get results that we wanted. But I think we were just kind of finding our groove. And I think every single game we've played, game by game, I think we've proven how good we can be.
You know what, Lauren, I hear you say that, and it just seems to me you're just talking about the state of college athletics nowadays with the transfer portal, NIL, all of that. It seems like every college sports team is basically in a rebuild mode every year because you have so many new people.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had around like 11 freshmen, I want to say, and 2 or 3 transfers. So that's like a whole team right there. And then we have a few veterans left in my class and some seniors. So it's just a whole new culture to our team. But the culture has been so awesome. There's so many characters and personalities on the team. Like there's not a day I don't go out on the field and I don't enjoy my time there. Like everything has been so much fun.
That's so great to hear. Before we talk about this year's team, I want to circle back one last moment to last year's team. One of the players missing, probably the greatest player in Arizona State women's soccer history, in Nicole Douglas, the program's all-time leading scorer. How weird was that at first, not seeing her out on the pitch with you when you took the field this year?
Yeah, it's a little different because the past 2 years, I've gotten really fond of like playing with her, and it's been so nice. Like she's up there, like she can just weave her way on and just score. But this year, I mean, it's still great that we have like our forwards like Sav, Flo, Ine, all the forwards up there like who can do just the same exact things. We've been putting in goals every game, so it's not anything different.
And Ine Colon is really, excuse me, helped pick up some of the slack. She is the #2 scorer in the Pac-12 this week with her 8 goals and 20 points on the year. She has really stepped in when you really needed someone to step up and replace Nicole's goal-scoring productivity.
Yeah, she's my roommate. Shout out roommate.
There you go.
But yeah, I'm really proud of how she's been playing. You know, like when we go back to the apartment, we talk and I'm like, how do you do that? Like every game, it's just something she just does. Like it's natural for her. So yeah, I'm really happy with how she's been playing and how she stepped up to the team.
And she really stepped up in the Washington match last Thursday, scoring that go-ahead game-winning goal in the 85th minute.
Yeah.
There must have been some tense moments out there on the pitch in the late stages of that game, huh?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I was like, oh my gosh. But then we were all like screaming and like, it was amazing. It was a good feeling, you know, 85th minute, last minute goal. It was a big win, so yeah.
Winning the close games, that really always seems to bolster a team's confidence.
I mean, it's something that we also we take into the next game because we say, you know, we don't want for it to come down to that. We want to play our standards. We want to get ahead when we can, and we know we can control the game. But like if the games come to it, like we still fight. And just like Ine's goal, we still fight until the 85th minute.
And you kind of took it into the next game Sunday against Washington State with that 4-goal second half explosion. Reading the accounts of that game, it was kind of a chippy game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Washington State, I understand, was called for 7 fouls in the first half alone. I think they average something like 11 per game.
Yeah, we knew going into the game, they're always a pretty aggressive team. They're tall, they're strong. So we knew that going in, but I think like after we got the first goal, after that water break, I think we just kind of had momentum. During halftime, we talked out what we needed to do, and then bam, 4 goals. So
yeah. That's offense you want to pack up and take with you on the road,
of
don't
course,
you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
Talk about your role as a defender. It's not maybe the most glamorous position on the pitch, but I know Coach Winkworth credited you for doing some of the quote-unquote dirty work in the win against Washington last Thursday night. What's your mindset when you're out there on the pitch?
I just feel like I just need to be all over the place. Like, I really am about like if one person steps here, I need to cover them, and I need to step, they need to cover me. Like when Hannah plays next to me, we just move like this. So it's really just about getting behind the ball, putting my body on the line, like defending with pride, getting to where I need to be, being in the right place, like everything. Yeah.
Your team record now, 8 wins, only 2 losses, 4 draws already this season, but the Sun Devils are 3-1-1 in Pac-12 conference play, and you feel like you're building some momentum, don't you, as you're ready to hit the road? You play at Oregon, I guess, this Friday night.
Yeah. Coming off 2 huge wins, it's definitely going to be big momentum. Even starting from the Cal game, that's a big tie for us. I mean, it's a result. And yeah, taking those games game by game, but bringing them into the next games, yeah.
What's the key to being successful on the road? I ask the football players this and some of the basketball players a lot. From your perspective, what do you think your team needs to do in order to have success winning on the road?
I think a lot of it is just focus, and we know we're there for business. Like this is a one game trip, so it's not as long, and it's not gonna be something that we take lightly. It's a business game, like we're there. So it's just all about focus.
In what ways has Coach Winkworth influenced the program most, in your opinion?
I mean, from my freshman year all the way up until now, it's like the people that he brings in, they are very good people. He knows like how to work his way around things, and like he kind of like we build a culture, and he's really big about culture. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things that we have going for our team. And it's definitely something that, you know, we take accountability for, and it's a big part of our standards on the team.
Before we let you go, let's learn a little bit about Lauren. She's a local gal from Peoria, Sandra Day O'Connor.
Yep.
It must have been really cool for you to be able to come to Arizona State and play in front of your family and friends, huh?
Yeah, I go home once a week. I see my family and my dogs. They come out to the game, so it's really nice being home.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have 2 golden retrievers.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, they're the cutest. Yeah.
Now, we were talking before we started taping. What are you majoring in, and what are your career plans?
I'm majoring in clinical exercise science, so like physical therapy, but I kind of want to go into like personal training. I didn't tell you this, but I added some nutritional classes, so maybe something in the nutritional realm. I don't know yet.
Well, you still got time to figure
Yeah.
all that stuff out, and you got a lot of big soccer games left to play. How do you feel about your NCAA tournament chances this
Yeah,
year?
I mean, with the way things are going and the momentum we're going to bring, I think we can make it pretty far.
Well, Lauren, I can say on behalf of all of us, you crushed your first TV interview. Well done.
Thank you.
Lauren. Thanks for joining us, and best
Thank
of
you.
luck to you and the team the rest of the year.
Thank you.
That's Sun Devil defender Lauren Kirberg, who's been our guest on this segment of the Anderson Healey Show. Up next, we will catch up with a former Sun Devil football great who will tell us about his latest project, taking the game of American football south of the border. A visit with our dear friend Juan Roque is coming up next. This is the Anderson Healey Show from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. Welcome back to the Anderson Healey Show from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. With Arizona State Vice President for University Athletics, Ray Anderson, I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play broadcaster for Sun Devil football, men's basketball, and baseball, and we're delighted that you joined us this week. From 1992 to 1996, Juan Roque was literally and figuratively a tower of strength in the Arizona State offensive line for Sun Devil teams coached by our dear friend, the late Coach Bruce Snyder. A 2-time All-Pac-10 selection, Juan in 1996 became one of only 16 Sun Devil football players ever to be named a consensus All-American when he helped lead ASU to its second Pac-10 championship and second all-time berth in the Rose Bowl. For the past 3 years, Juan has been involved in a project whereby he helps bring the sport that he loves, American football, to the young people of Mexico, his parents' native country, and a country where he lived as a young child many years ago. It's always great to catch up with number 74, Mr. Juan Roque. How are you, buddy? Good to see you, man.
It's great to see you, Tim. And, I was thinking as I was heading over here today how 28 years ago we had our first interview of this type when I was on the
Wow.
Bruce Snyder show.
Wow.
After we beat a ranked Oregon team at home.
Oh, yes.
And, you were always special to me in that sense. Is that we always had that bond and that kinship through my time at ASU. So it's a pleasure to be here with you today and that you're still in the game.
Oh, those are great memories. That was a great time for Sun Devil football. In fact, just a quick aside, you mentioned Oregon. One of my all-time best memories of your Nebraska win, the epic 19-0 shutout of Nebraska in September of 1996, was I was covering the game for Channel 3 television at the time. And at the end of the game, all the media goes down to the locker room area to get their post-game interviews. And by the time we had gotten down to the locker room, the program, keep in mind, is coming off this epic win that no one outside of their locker room thought could possibly happen. We get down there, and Coach Snyder had signs put up all around the locker room that said, "Beat Oregon," because that was the next week's
Yes.
game, and he wanted to get you guys thinking on the next opponent,
Yes.
even after you're coming off this epic victory.
It was the one-at-a-time mentality, right? And that's
Yeah.
what got us to the Rose Bowl, and that's what led to a lot of young men developing not only into great football players, but outstanding human beings outside of football. And it's a pleasure, and it's a lot of pride and a lot of humility being part of that. So.
And you get that feeling anytime there's any event honoring that team or any of the players on that team, all your teammates, the Jake Plumbers, the Keith Pools, yourself, Derek Rogers, Scott Vonderahi, all those guys, when they recongregate and gather together, it's almost like a family, isn't it?
It is. It's a brotherhood, and that's something that was stressed by the coaches all the way down to the players. And it's something that we just believed that we were. We were a family. We were all in it together. There were times when only the 11 guys in the huddle believed that we would be able to come back from 2 touchdowns behind on USC or 4 touchdowns from UCLA or beat the defending national champions. But it was that mentality that was instilled to us by, of course, the late Coach Bruce Snyder. He looked for guys that fit that mentality. He looked for guys that would want to be part of that. And it wasn't always about the outstanding talent, because we had guys on our 96 Rose Bowl team that a lot of people didn't recruit, like Pat Tillman, for instance.
Sure.
So definitely special, and definitely something that set up a lot of what we do later in life in the endeavors that we've taken part of, including the one that we're going to talk about.
Indeed, and this is the one we want to talk about now, because on the surface, to me, this seems like a match made in football heaven. Juan loves the game of football, climbing from the ranks of youth league ball to college ball at Arizona State, onto the NFL with the Detroit Lions, and you also are a proud Mexican American.
Yes.
And now you're bringing your game, American football, to the youth of the country of Mexico. How did this endeavor begin? Tell us all about it.
So in 2020, my wife and I purchased a condominium in Rocky Point, and that's Puerto Peñasco. It's a place where a lot of Arizonans go, Arizona's beach,
Sure.
as we call it.
Right.
And it was during COVID, so it was a really interesting time to be going into Mexico. But during this time, I met one of the owners of one of the bars there. It's called the Boo Bar, Jose Flores, and we started talking, and he had done baseball camps for the kids in Puerto Peñasco. And it's a very small town, a lot of poverty. And a lot of these kids, they love sports, but they just don't have the avenues on which to learn or to flourish and grow. So the idea was to have a football camp, a free football camp, where we would have coaches from the U.S. come, work with the kids, teach them fundamentals, route running, blocking. They play flag football mostly in Puerto Peñasco. The organized football, sadly, in that town, because it's so small, wasn't really something that was happening at the time. There have been teams in the past, but we focused on flag football initiatives, and Diana Flores made Mexican flag football pretty famous during the AFC with her being Peyton Manning's right hand in that Pro Bowl.
Right.
And you saw the Super Bowl commercial. So it's becoming really big in Mexico right now. And football always has been big in Mexico. It's just nobody really has been able to, quote unquote, crack the code per se, to get the sport to be more mainstream, to get it to be more embraced. There's a lot of people that love the sport in Mexico, Tim, and it's just nobody's been able to kind of marry all the different things, whether it's equipment, whether it's coaching, whether it's camps. Even the NFL has tried to connect in these communities, and this is where we
played a game a year down in Mexico City, the NFL.
Yes, they do, and they're trying to connect with that audience and bring football in a more mainstream way into Mexico, which is, soccer, baseball, of course, are always going to be there.
Sure.
But it's there. The love for the sport is there. The foundation is there. So what we wanted to do was start this project to bring the football to the kids, because at the end of the day, that's who's going to be your fans. You can have NFL games in Mexico City, sure. You're going to get 100,000 people, sure. But as we know, the sport grows through the youth. It grows through the kids. If the kids start to love it, they'll play it. If they play it, they'll continue to play it. And eventually it'll just explode, and it'll just be popular, and it'll be something special. So we had our first 2 camps in Puerto Peñasco. During the height of COVID, 2021.
Wow.
Still had about 60 kids show up. In year 2, we had 65 kids show up. And again, Jose Flores from Puerto Peñasco, he's a avid sports fan. Sadly, he roots for the other team, but we put up with each other in that aspect.
There you go.
But when you take into account his wanting to help the kids there, and then bringing in Darren Jordan, who played for the 49ers during their Super Bowl run in 1995, I believe it was.
No, 94, you're
94.
right. 94 season, yeah.
And then we brought in David Diaz-Infante, who won 2 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys, who's also Mexican-American. So combine that with Brent Bernstein, who coaches locally at Shadow Ridge High School, Gabe Pico, who coaches at Shadow Ridge High School.
And of course, Brent Bernstein was his
One of
teammate
my
on the Rose
teammates,
Bowl
yes.
team. Yeah.
Bobby Ramirez, who coached at Shadow Mountain and is an attorney here in town. He was a defensive coordinator for a state championship team back in 2021. Just special guys. Derek Stinson, who coaches at Hamilton, who played for the Colts. We have an all-star coaching staff, so we were able to bring these gentlemen together. Mind you, volunteer, because we don't have any money, because we were still starting out. Right. But these gentlemen, who are special people in their own right, donated their time. And just to see the kids' reaction when they see a Darren Jordan or a David Diaz-Infante, these are guys that have been at the top of football. It grew, and we sadly outgrew Puerto Peñasco. So in 2023, this year, we had our first camp in Hermosillo.
Which is a city of about 1 million people, isn't it?
Yes, and we had 110 kids show up.
Wow.
It was just an incredible atmosphere. They gave us a field. The gentleman in charge of the leagues there put us up in a hotel room. It was just a 2-day event. And the mission now of what we call Boo Football, in honor of the Boo Bar in Puerto Peñasco, the mission is going to be to eventually transition into a full charity where we will have equipment donations. We will be able to maybe take equipment into Mexico. Here's the thing that really broke my heart is that these kids, they're playing with old equipment. They're using PVC pipe for thigh pads. Their helmets, they actually drill screws into their helmets because their chin straps, the buckles and the buttons have fallen off the helmets.
Oh my gosh.
So we've seen this, but the love for the sport is there. We've talked to the coaches there. And all they want is just assistance to help grow the sport. It's there. The foundation is there to really grow this into something special. And what we want to do is we want to just start small. Maybe again, Hermosillo, just in the state of Sonora. I've already met a lot of the youth coaches there. They're all for it. We plan on another camp in 2024. And eventually what we would love to do is get to the point where we would have donation equipments, money equipments, where we can go and maybe donate a field, donate equipment to a team or a whole league so that we can grow the sport. Because as football evolves, in this country, sadly, I'm going to say something that's probably going to be very unpopular. I feel the sport's under assault a little bit. I feel that there's people not wanting football to continue. I might have a tinfoil hat on with that, but you just see it with the movies that have been released and things people are saying. But we know football's a great sport. It's a team sport. It builds brotherhood. It builds ties that bind for life, as you see with the teammates. Who doesn't remember their high school teammates? I do. Their college teammates, even their pro teammates. I mean, It's special. Any sport is special, but football has that one element to it, where it's like us against the world kind of mentality. And when that binds you together, that's together forever. So we want to bring that into Mexico. We want to bring that in the grassroots fashion where we bring it to the kids who otherwise wouldn't be exposed to it. Kids in Hermosillo, when was the last time they maybe been around a Super Bowl champion or seen a Super Bowl ring where they can pose with it and hold it in their hands? And it's not very often. It's not very often it happens in the States in football camps. So we want to bring that to Mexico. It's an exciting time. We're finalizing our 501c3. And the mission eventually is going to be to grow the sport so maybe we get the attention of an NFL or a Nike or somebody that could give us some type of endowment where year in, year out, we can just do this on a national scale in Mexico. I would love to eventually go to our home state in Aguascalientes and have a camp. And not just have a camp, but bring equipment, bring cleats, pads, helmets for these kids that love the sport, but sadly can't play it usually because of that. They don't have the equipment.
Right.
There's a lot of poverty, working class parents that can't afford couple $100 in football equipment. Well, we want to eventually bring that equipment to these kids.
Oh, that would be so awesome. What's been the reception of the kids? I have to imagine it's off the charts to see the look in their eyes when they see you guys. And you were talking, I think, in one article about watching a couple of the young men in pass protection drill.
Yes.
The old blue bag drill that Coach Cazzetto used to have up at Camp Tonazona.
Yes, very receptive. They just want to learn. They're like little sponges. The kids that we're referring to were actually college kids. They played at the Technological Institute of Monterrey, which is one of the best football programs in Mexico. And I didn't even know this until recently, but there's a professional football league in Mexico. It's an 8-team league.
Wow.
There's some former NFL players that are in this league. So again, it's there. It's there. And we want to be able to crack that code to be able to grow the sport on that national level where it is a big deal, where it is something that, Hermosillo, Mexico City, Monterrey, these bigger cities can have these youth football leagues where maybe even the player eventually will come to ASU or even the other school down there, or USC. But I feel that the talent pool will grow and we'll have those players that can come in. Actually, we already have players playing in the NCAA from Europe. We've had NFL players that are European born and raised. So why not Mexico? It's an evolution that I think we can take and a leap that will be able to be taken if we have the right people in place. And that's what we're going to do everything right. We want to make sure that we're documenting everything so that when people donate to the charity, they'll know that's going to where it's supposed to go. We're not going to play games, obviously, we could get you in a lot of trouble as well. But we just want to make sure that we're doing right by these kids, because at the end of the day, that's who it's for, and that's what we're bringing it. That's why we're bringing it.
Well, kudos to you, Juan, and all the coaches. This is great work, and it's really, really just tremendous. Before we let you go, you always have been, since the day you left here, an ardent supporter of and fan of your alma mater. Just some thoughts on the tough times that Kenny Dillingham's staff and his team are going through right now with the 1-5 start to the season.
Definitely tough, and it's going to test a lot of the loyalty. It's going to test a lot of the commitment. It's going to test character. We went through it ourselves in 1994. We were 3-8, as you remember, and a lot of those losses were very close losses.
Yes.
3 points here, 2 points there.
Yep.
It can become very frustrating, but what the players have to understand is, while frustrated that you're not getting the result you want, you have to stay committed. You have to stay in sync with your coach. You have to buy into the vision. You have to show up every day. You have to prepare like you're going to win every game. And the wins will eventually come. Remember, Coach Stan used to always say that. The wins will be there. Let me worry about the scoreboard. You just play football. You just play. You just do what you're coached to do. Go in every game. Run the play that's being run. Call the defense that's being called, and just everything else will fall into place. And we just believe that. And through those close, heartbreaking losses, we were able to set a foundation where we 6-5 in 95, which, even we had some of those losses that were very close that year.
That year, too,
including the one
yeah.
to U of A at the end of the
I
year.
remember that one.
But we didn't know how to win yet. So that's what these kids need to do, is rally around your coach, believe and buy into what you're being taught. The wins and everything else will take care of itself. We're still behind you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to always be supporting of the program and of Coach Dillingham. And so are a lot of the other alumni. But it's just a matter of them not giving up on themselves and just continuing to get better. And the wins may come at the end of the year. There's a lot of teams that have broken late. And then that momentum continues into the next year. So it's just one at a time, right? This is all we can do. Just next one up.
In his own way, I think that's exactly what Coach Dillingham has been preaching to the fans, the fan base, and to his team. One at a time. Just keep playing. Just keep showing up for work. Try to get better every day, and eventually, as Juan said, the wins will come. Buddy, great to see you. Congratulations on all the great work you're doing down in Mexico. Keep up the good work, and come back and see us again sometime.
Absolutely, and always a pleasure to see you, Tim. I'm glad you're still in the game. I'm glad you're still here, and go Devils.
Well, I appreciate that. Juan Roque, one of the Sun Devils' all-time great offensive linemen, our guest here on the Anderson Healey Show. Ray will rejoin me for the final segment of today's show in a moment. This is the Anderson Healey Show from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. In baseball parlance, we are rounding third and heading for home on this week's installment of the Anderson Healey Show from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. I'm Tim Healey, the voice of the Sun Devils. Glad you could be with us this week as Arizona State Athletic Director Ray Anderson rejoins me now to talk about, unfortunately, some tough news for the Arizona State women's basketball program, as the Sun Devils' honorable mention all Pac-12 guard from a year ago, guard Ty Skinner, one of the top scorers in the league, will be out for the entire 2023-24 season, having suffered a knee injury in fall workouts a couple of weeks ago. Skinner averaged over 19 points per game, had 15 games scoring 20 or more points for the Devils 1 year ago. Her first season at Arizona State, she came to ASU from the University of Delaware, where she played for current Sun Devil coach Natasha Adair. And boy, that's tough news for Natasha and her program to lose their best player and best scorer.
Well, Ty is a tremendous player and a leader of this team. And so, yes, disappointing that she won't be able to participate this year. But the old saying, next woman up.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to step in and play. And so I think Natasha is absolutely identifying who's going to be that point guard, and everybody's got to step up and do a little more. But we'll certainly miss Ty.
Yeah.
Her energy and her leadership is just phenomenal. But she'll be around the program, and I'm sure in the bench area, cajoling and encouraging her teammates. But not having her on the floor certainly will have an impact. But you move on and you get better, notwithstanding that. And I think Natasha and this team will do exactly that, Tim.
I would look for the veteran Jaden Simmons to really step up into perhaps an even bigger role this year in the backcourt.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody else has got to step up, take on more, do more, and then others will rally to it. And you know how it is. You get momentum going on in a sport, and all of a sudden you realize that there's still a lot out there to accomplish, a lot to get, and one player at the end of the day doesn't keep you from that goal if you get it together as a team.
Speaking of a sport that has a lot of momentum, how about Bob Bowman's Arizona State swimming and diving program? The Sun Devils hit the pool at the Mona Plummer Aquatic Center last Friday and easily handled the Rebels of UNLV as the Sun Devil men won by a score of 229-71. The ASU women won their competition 230-70 as Arizona State won all 28 events in the meet. Among the stars, surprise, surprise, NCAA champion Leon Marchand winning his 3 individual events, the 200 butterfly, the 200 backstroke and the 400 individual medley, and Leon was also a member of the Sun Devils' victorious 400 medley relay team. While on the women's side, Charlie Brown won her 3 events, the 100 and 200 backstroke and the 400 IM, and she too, Ray, was part of the women's winning 400 medley relay. So just an outstanding performance in the pool by the Devils last week.
On both the men and women's side, you expect us to really compete, but I don't think I've ever been to a meet, and unfortunately I missed this one, where you were 28 of 28 in winning events. I think that's called perfect. That's called batting 1,000. So we batted 1,000. I'd like to think that will happen again, and more of us will be able to witness it. But that was pretty incredible. But Coach Bowman has come in, and this has been a deliberate build-up for this program.
Remember a couple of years ago, the entire team redshirted during COVID.
During
and
COVID.
That was a strategic move that really is paying dividends.
It is really paying dividends, because you were not going to be able to train and perform and compete during COVID with the nuances of swimming that our student athletes deserve. So we made the decision, led by Coach Bowman, to redshirt everyone. And now it is paying dividends, in addition to the fact that those student athletes got an extra year of classroom and academic support. And so it's nice to fast forward and say, oh, we've got a number of our swimming and diving men and women doing master's work because they got that year to study. And then they got to come back to compete. So it's working out well. Bowman is a strategist. The folks around him are very, very committed. And this men's and women's swimming and diving program are reflecting a lot of care and love by Coach Bowman and his staff.
Next up for Coach Bowman's teams, a 2-day meet against the Wolfpack of North Carolina State. That'll take place on Friday and Saturday, October 20th and 21st, and it will be right here in Tempe at the Mona Plummer Aquatic Center. Busy times for Coach Matt Thurman's Sun Devil men's golf team. Last week, ASU finished in 3rd place at the Ben Hogan Collegiate Tournament in Fort Worth, Texas. The Sun Devils finished 3 rounds at 13 under par, 3 strokes behind the winner of the event, the Vanderbilt Commodores. Individually, sophomore Luke Potter tied for 7th place with a 4 under par score for the tournament, just 3 shots off the lead. He was Arizona State's top individual finisher.
Yeah, Coach Thurman's got the men going again. Vanderbilt is a perennial top 10, heck, top 5. And so when you go back there with that kind of competition and get your thirds, get your seconds, this is going to be a strong team all the way through the end. And don't want to jinx ourselves, but we'll be back in the national championship conversation. We can be honest about that, and Matt Thurman is very confident that this roster will get us back to that situation. So fun to watch them play and compete, because I don't think we've talked about a tournament where we came back here and they were anything outside of the top 5 in the absolute best competition out there in the collegiate space. It's an incredible program that Matt's got going.
Well, as Ray and I are sitting here mass communicating with you, the Sun Devil men's golf team is in action this week as they are taking place in the Williams Cup event. That's out in Wilmington, North Carolina. Finally, with women's golf, they had a busy week last week as they tied for 10th place at the Windy City Classic near Chicago, Illinois. The Sun Devils finishing 3 rounds at even par, with Ashley Mene posting Arizona State's top individual score. Ashley had a 3-round total of 4 under 212. That tied her for 20th place in the Windy City Classic.
Well, Coach Missy is always going to have, again, on the women's side, a very competitive team. I think they like going back there to Chicago, because I think Chicago was the last place we won a national championship.
In 2017.
In 2017. Yes, so, a little deja vu, going back there and doing well in a packed tournament. So Missy's got the women's team also ready to go, and you got Ashley and you got Grace and you got a number of others out there who will compete collectively to really scare some people. Let's just call it like it is. This golf program, men's and women's, is quite impressive.
Both of them.
Both of them. And so between Matt and Missy, you were constantly in the game, and we will be, and we expect to be. So it's going to be fun watching them both play this year.
Agreed. And with that, we bring down the curtain on this week's installment of the Anderson Healey Show. We thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to our executive producer, Arizona State Senior Associate Athletic Director Doug Tamaro, for his help. And thanks as well to our terrific engineer producer, Sean Crespin. of the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network, and to our incomparable show scheduler, I have to think of a different adjective every week to describe her, Kim Nelson of Sun Devil Athletics. We'll be back next week with another installment of the Anderson Healey Show, and we hope that you will make plans to join us. Ray, great to see you. Great to have you back.
Always a pleasure, Tim. And as we say, hey, let's go, Devils.
Go Devils. Till next time, for Ray Anderson, I'm Tim Healey. Thanks for joining us on the Anderson Healey Show. So long, everybody.